Alright, we're gonna get started. Welcome everybody to the Polish Show. This is Dan here at Echo Spider on Twitter. Thanks for joining me again. Real quick, there was no show last week because I only pulled 4 issues, and as I was getting ready to talk about, as I was getting ready to talk about it, um, I I don't know where those comics went. I need to look for them. So, but I'll tell you real quick what they were. I pulled Flash Forward from DC Comics, that's issue number 5. Then Undiscovered Country from Image Comics. I got both the normal variant, the normal cover, and the Greg Capullo variant. Greg Capullo is one of my favorite artists. And then I also picked up Venom, the End number 1. I was looking for the Clayton Crane variant, but I didn't find it. But actually, I went back and actually read the book, and it's pretty good. But we'll get started with this week's stuff. If you have any questions while you're on the chat or anything, please let me know. Let me know what you're picking up. As you can see, this is my pile of everything not DC Comics. This is all the DC Comics, and you'll see why there's so many on this one. But first, real quick, I wanted to kind of showcase this. The shop I go to here in Irving, in Dallas, Irving, DFW. It's called Sanctuary Books and Games, and the owner Sean, he's a very cool dude. Donny Cates was he had a signing on the 20th on Monday. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend, and then Sean knew that I was unable to attend, so he gave me this Thor number 1, and it's signed by Donny Cates. I don't know if you can see that. So this is a signed book, so I really appreciate that. One of the reasons I keep going to the shops is because of personal things like this, the little personal touch. It's not the like Comixology and stuff, like they don't give you that kind of stuff. Like so, support your local shops. Keep going. I think it's very cool and it's very important. You'll get to know some cool people along the way. But let's get started with the books for this week. And if you follow us on Twitter, tomorrow we'll be giving away the Guardians of the Galaxy digital code. And then I have 2 codes for Thor number 1 that I'll be giving away as well. And then just follow us on Twitter at Next Issue Pod so you can find out how you can get those codes if you haven't read the book. Alright, first for this week, and this book I wanted to keep it in the bag and board because it's a special variant, the premiere variant of Guardians of the Galaxy number 1. This is a new book. It's a relaunch of the title. It's written by Al Ewing with art by Juan Cabal, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by Corey Petit. I also got the blank variant, so hopefully I'll be getting a commission of something. North Texas Comic Book Show is coming up, and then Fan Expo, and then some other conventions that hopefully I'll be able to go to. So that'll be real cool. I have read this book. It is very good. I haven't finished reading Donny Cates' run on Guardians of the Galaxy, but this book does kind of catch you up a little bit on what's going on there. But I am looking forward to going back and reading that to figure out how we got to where we are. Next up, let me read the title. Let me find the credits first, and then I'll put the book up on the shelf. I'm trying to figure out how to do this in a better way. Here we go. So this is Atlantis Attacks. And this is kind of a continuation or a crossover between Namor and the new agents of Atlas. So if you're not picking up New Agents of Atlas, I recommend you do. It's a very cool book. It's based. The team itself is based of Asian and Asian American characters in the Marvel Universe. Is written by Greg Pak, who's one of my favorite writers. This is also written by Greg Pak, with art by Ariel Anidito, Rachelle Rosenberg on colors, and Joe Sabino on letters. and it looks like it's just gonna be, Namor is always about conflict, so I think that's kind of where this is heading. I haven't caught up on Agents of Atlas. As soon as I do, I'll go ahead and read this. But I'm very excited. I'm always eager to pick up a new Greg Pak book. I think he's a. If you don't follow him on Twitter, I recommend you do. He's just a great follow overall. Next up, we are. Here, I'll do this one for. I'll do these two first, and then we'll. I like to save the X-Men stuff for the end. So we have Captain Marvel. This is part of the Last Avengers story, Part 3, written by Kelly Thompson, with art by Lee Garbert, Tamra Bonvillain on colors, and Clayton Cowles on letters, with amazing covers by Mark Brooks. So the Last Avengers story, something has happened to Carol Danvers, so it's a little bit different than what you're normally used to. So yeah, I recommend picking this up. Kelly Thompson is doing a fantastic job on the books that she's writing in. I'm picking this up from her, and also Deadpool. Deadpool, it's also very good, which I think we talked about 2 weeks ago when I did the show. Right. Next up is a one shot of A Web of Venom, The Good Son, written by Zach Thompson, with pencils by Dio Neves, Oren Jr. on inks, and Rain Barreto on colors, with Clayton Cowles on letters. This book is kind of like a little bit of aftermath from um, Absolute Carnage, and it follows Dylan, who is Venom's or Eddie Brock's kid, who was raised by his dad. So go back and read Venom, but also, if you have read Absolute Carnage and you caught up on Venom, I think this is something that'll interest you. I haven't read a lot of the books for this week except for the X-Men books, but I think anything that's going on in that Venom verse, um, it's been pretty good. So okay, next up we have probably my favorite X-Men book, and I know these kind of I don't think I've been pretty consistent about what my favorite book is. It's Marauders #6, written by Gary Duggan, with art by Matteo Lolli and Mario De Panino, Eric Arcienega and Federico Blee on colors, and Corey Petit on letters. This is the book that follows Cade Pride, aka Shadowcat, and whatever however many nicknames she has, um, and it follows them on the quest to bring in mutants to Krakoa. Um, as you may have read on the first issue, and this is the slightest of spoilers, uh, Kitty, who goes now by Cade Pride, she cannot use the Krakoa gates to teleport, so she's got a ship, and she's a pirate now. So Marauders, get on board. Um, and then last but not least, from Marvel as well, it's Excalibur #6, written by Tini Howard, with art by Mark Castell, Eric Arcienega on colors, and Corey Petit on letters. This is, like I said, all the X-Men books are just kind of really like hot fire. Uh, so I'm really enjoying everything that I'm picking up from the X-Men line. This book is the one that's got more of the fantasy implications, with Captain Britain and following that team. So that was all the Marvel books. So we'll go to Independent, and then we'll spend quite a bit of time on DC. The next book is Heartbeat #3, with story and art by Maria Llobet or Llobet. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Sorry about that. And then letters by Anne World Design. And this book is originally written in French, if I'm not mistaken, so it's translated by Andrea Rosenberg. Um, yeah, this book just, there's not a lot to say other than the art is fantastic, and I've been picking it up mainly because of that. I haven't read it I don't know what it's about. I think it's a miniseries, so there's only 5 or 6 issues, and I don't mind investing in beautiful art, for a story. This is from Boom Studios, and they've been putting out quality stuff. Actually, this week, the 3 books that I'm picking up that are not Marvel or DC are all Boom Studios. So hopefully that kind of tells you the quality of their work. Let me see if there's a small synopsis. Hmm, there's not, and I'm not gonna look it up. All I can tell you is I've heard very good things from people that I trust, and they've recommended the book because they have read it in French. I think they said there was also um, a Spanish version of it. I've looked for it because I read Spanish, but I wasn't able to find it. And then last from Boom, well, not last, but next up we have Once and Future, who's written by Karen Gillan with art by Dan Mora and colors by Tamara Bonvillain. Um, Once again, if you're familiar with Karen Gillan's work, it's a lot of fun. This is also from Boom Studios. Um, it's about an undead king in Britain. So, if you're into any kind of like Arthurian legend kind of stuff or fantasy stuff, I think you'll enjoy this. This is probably the end of the arc, so now I can actually read up and catch up. I read 1, 2, and 3, and then after that, I just kind of got behind them books, and so now that this is out, I'll be able to catch up. And the last book that I have, I haven't picked it up. So the last book, I'm picking it up from Boomerang Comics, but that's out there in Louisville. I normally only go there maybe like once or twice a month to pick up everything I have. It's Folklore #3 by Matt Kent. Oh, I guess I should have looked up who does the art. If anybody on the chat knows the artist, let me know. I think that'd be. I guess I should have had that information. But I'll be going to Boomerang today because we have a comic book club. We're actually reading Tom King's Vision. Yeah, so here's Folklore #3. Matt Kent on writing, and then Matt Smith. Um, he's the artist. Like I said, this is also from Boom Studios. This is another fantasy book, but it's got a bit of a twist. It's got a pretty interesting twist, so I recommend it. This is also a mini series, so it should be done in 2 more. I think it'll go up to 5. So I definitely recommend that. Now we can move on to DC Comics, and it's actually not that many books. It's not that many books. I just have a big pile right here, and I'll take my time with these. First up, it's Batman: Curse of the White Knight, issue #6, written and drawn by Sean Murphy, with colors by Matt Hollingsworth. If you're not familiar with the White Knight universe, it is an offshoot of. It's a different world than the normal DC universe and the normal Batman universe. It follows Batman, and it started with Batman: The White Knight, which is an 8-issue miniseries, or yeah, I guess it's a miniseries. It lasted 8 issues. It came out 2018 to 2019, and now this book continues that story. Uh, in the first book, the main crux of the issue was that the Joker was cured, and then he was kind of prosecuting Batman for everything that he's kind of done for or against the city, really, like all the collateral damage and stuff like that. It's a very interesting book. If you've seen anything from Sean Murphy, like any of his previous books, like you'll know that his art is amazing. I also picked up the variant cover, which this is one of the. He's a relative of Bruce Wayne from a long time ago. Just real quick on this one because I'm also behind on this book, but I did read the first 2. Um, this book follows Batman and it introduces Azrael, or a version of Azrael for this world. Azrael is one of my favorite characters from Batman. I think just growing up in the 90s, the whole aesthetic of Azrael was really cool. He looks a lot different here, but I still enjoy him as a character. I think he's very cool. They're doing some really cool things with him. And if for you guys that have read those books, you know that um, after everything that happened with Bruce Wayne, Azrael became Batman for a little bit, and then there was a fight because Azrael wanted to keep being Batman, but then Bruce Wayne was back. So it's very interesting comics overall. So go back and look for it if you need to. But you don't need to read any of that stuff for this. You probably do need to read Curse of the White Knight, but it's really good. It's very beautiful to look at. So I can't recommend it enough. And then for this series, I'm actually very excited because not only is Sean Murphy coming to Dallas in, I want to say May. They're coming to the big convention in May. A lot of artists are coming, but Sean Murphy's one of them. So hopefully I'll get to meet him, get a couple of books signed, talk to him for a little bit, just kind of let him know that he's killing it on these books. All right, next up, and I'm actually not that far behind on Detective Comics. Well, I guess I am. Um, it's Detective Comics 1019, written by Peter Tomasi, with art by Scott Godlewski, uh, David Barron on colors, and Rob Lai on letters. The cover is by Rafa Sandoval, Jody Tarragona, and David Barron. Um, so yeah, this is one of the books from DC that I'm still picking up. I'm still picking up a few things that I started picking up before I kind of made the decision to not pick up as many DC books. Um, but Detective Comics is one of my, anything. I think mainly the Batman books, except the main Batman book, but mainly the Batman books. It's what I'm picking up. And all the DC books is pretty cool. They have a Birds of Prey advertisement. I'm very excited. Too bad Harley fell from behind me, but it's alright. And then last, well not last, but before we get into the big, what I'll call the meat of the episode, is oh boy, here we go. Batman Superman number 6. This is the conclusion to the Infection story, or the aftermath, I guess. This is written by Joshua Williamson with art by David Marcus. If you're not familiar with Williamson's work, he's been writing on the Flash for forever now, since 2016, I think, since Rebirth happened. Colors by Alejandro Sanchez, John J. Hill on letters, and the covers by Marquez and Sanchez as well. So a very, very steady team that's been on here. Uh, like I said, this is the conclusion to the arc, so now I can finally go back and read and catch up on all these books. I think I mentioned before the way I like to read my books is that I'll pick up the arc in single issues, and then once the last issue that completes that story happens, then I'll read them all. Um, except for like X-Men books and stuff like that. There's some stuff that I really enjoy reading in month to month. There's some of the stuff that I just prefer to read it, kind of like once the whole story is out. So it really just depends. All right, let me see here. Here comes the. All right, so I'll use this one. So this is the Wonder Woman 750. This is the blank variant. So hopefully I'll get some really really cool stuff commissioned on here. I'm very excited um, about the possibilities of me putting something on there. But I'll start with this one here. So for this one, DC Comics put out 3, 4. They put out 8. They put out 9 covers. I think 8 or 9. I guess 9 including the blank. This is a 96-page book. It is a $10 book. Luckily, my shop gives me a discount for maintaining a pull list. Oh, we got somebody in the chat. Hey, it's Austin. Hey, Austin. Let me. Well, I guess he can hear me. You just in time about to talk Wonder Woman, even though I've only read the first story. Um, so I'll talk about one story and then we'll switch over to the covers. The first story, which I believe is the kind of like the ongoing whatever's been going on in the Wonder Woman book. I haven't been keeping up with that book yet, but it's called The Wild Hunt, written by Steve Orlando, who's the current writer on Wonder Woman, with pencils by Jesus Marino, Vicente Cifuentes on inks, and Romulo Fajardo on colors. And then the 1940s cover is done by Joshua Middleton. So you can see they kind of try to emulate each decade of the covers. I hope you can see that. Okay, so this looks like kind of like the original design for Wonder Woman. So they try to emulate like the just whatever was going on at the time. So we'll switch covers. We can see. Oh, okay. I'm glad you can see them. Good. So the next story on this is called From Small Things Mama, by Gail Simone and Colleen Doran on pencils and inks with colors by High Five. Gail Simone is one of my favorite Wonder Woman writers, and she's just an excellent writer overall. And Colleen Doran, like we talked about 2 weeks ago, we talked about her new book, The Clock. This cover that I have up here now is the 1950s cover from Jenny Frison. I'm not familiar with that artist, but I think I really like all the covers that I picked up because you can kind of tell how Wonder Woman was changing from decade to decade a little bit. The next one you'll really be able to tell because it changed. It's a dramatic change. And a lot of you guys that are familiar with variant covers may recognize the artist immediately. Um, the next story on here is The Interrogation by Mariko Tamaki, with pencils and inks by Elena Casagrande and Sunny Go on colors. And then the 1960s variant that's up on the thing uh, is by J. Scott Campbell. If you follow J. Scott Campbell, he does a lot of variant work. You might have even seen a preview of this on his Instagram. And then colors on this cover by Sabine Rich. So as you can see, this one shows Wonder Woman in the during part of her career. She kind of switched up to being more like a secret agent, kung fu type of. I haven't read a lot of that stuff. I just kind of know based on her history and stuff. So this is kind of what that cover is emulating. Okay. So next up is the next story in this book. It's called Never Change, by Greg Rucka, who's one of the most prolific writers for Wonder Woman. Like they have written a lot of stuff that I've actually read. A lot of the volume one, and then I think the story was called the Hecate. And then Greg Rucka kind of took over after Rebirth in 2016 again. Um, the story for Greg Rucka was drawn by Nicholas Scott and Romulo Fajardo on colors. And then the 1970s cover is by Olivia Copiel, um, to kind of mirror the I don't know that there was two Wonder Women, but there was a big change in Wonder Woman in the 80s, especially with Crisis and everything happening. So it kind of reflects that. Or sorry, the 70s. This is the 70s, not the 80s. And I'm no Wonder Woman expert. I only know what I've kind of read and seen, and there's been actually some pretty good documentaries out there that kind of follow her story and kind of explain all this. Okay, the next story is called To Leave Paradise by Kami Garcia, with pencils by Phil Hester and Andy Parks on inks, with the colors by Trish Mulvihill. And then the 80s cover, this is George Perez. Now, I'm familiar with his stuff. I've actually read a bunch of the after Crisis, and then when they relaunched the Wonder Woman book, George Perez took over, and they kind of rebooted Wonder Woman again, where she looked like this. And George Perez has been an artist for a long time. So I really, this is one of my favorite variants, just because I do have a connection to that actual topic. One thing I don't know if you guys had noticed, and if not, when we go back and watch the video, look at the top, the DC logo. They've actually changed it on every issue, on each variant, to kind of reflect the DC logo at that decade. Um, yep. Even the one from the 80, oh sorry, the 50s does say National Comics, which is what DC was before. So it's kind of cool to see that kind of detail that they put on there. All right, next up, the next story on here is called Emergency Visit by Shannon Hale and Dean Hale. Riley Rossmo on pencils. Riley is one of my. Uh, his art is just very different and it's very cool. He's currently doing, I think, Martian Manhunter, that maxi series, and then colors by Ivan Placencia. And then the 90s cover is done by Brian Boland. He's the artist from The Killing Joke, so and he's done obviously a lot of other stuff, but especially with uh, what is it called, 2000 AD in the UK. But in as far as DC work, probably his most famous book is The Killing Joke, and that's who this covers by. I quick quick tangent on this. Um, Whenever the Detective Comics 1000 came out, I actually ordered his variant from Forbidden Planet. Unfortunately, I guess they ran out. I wasn't able to get one, so I'm still kind of hunting down his Detective Comics 1000 variant. So hopefully one day you'll see me maybe put it on the show because I got it. And then this is kind of the DC logo that I first learned about. All right. Next up, it's the story called Always, written by Vida Ayala, with pencil and inks by Aman Now Pen and J. David Ramos on colors. And then the 2000s variant by Adam Hughes. I think this one's probably one of the more, at least to me, one of the more recognizable variants, just because Adam Hughes, kind of like J. Scott Campbell, have a very distinct art, and they actually are very prolific when it comes to just drawing covers. So you'll see a lot of their stuff in covers nowadays. Um, so yeah, this is probably one of my favorite ones. They're all my favorites. It's hard for me to rank them. I wouldn't have picked them up if I didn't like I really, yeah, if there was a cover I didn't like, I didn't pick it up. And then the last cover that I picked up, it's right there. Um, and then the last story on here it's called The Brave New World by Scott Snyder, with art by Brian Hitch and Mike Spicer on colors. And then this cover is by Jim Lee, with inks by Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair on colors. That's obviously the team that kind of always works together. So if you see a Jim Lee art, it was probably inked by Scott Williams and it was probably colored by Alex Sinclair. This is the 2010s cover. Yeah, the 2010s cover. The one cover I did not pick up because I thought it was gonna be behind this. Normally, when you buy blank, um, like in the, let me see, when you buy a blank variant, normally you get the normal cover behind it. In this case, I thought it was on here, but it's not. So I missed out on getting the regular cover that by Joel Jones and Trish Mobile. And I love Joel Jones's art, so I may need to go pick up that book at some point. Um, because if she ever comes around, I definitely want to get that signed. Um, so that was it. That was all that was my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was my 9 Wonder Woman books. Um, and it'll be probably 10 by before we get done with all this stuff. Now when I pick up the Joel Jones cover, that was the normal cover. Um, and then this year we have a few more anniversaries, which will hurt the wallet. Hopefully, I don't buy all the variants kind of like this. But we'll see. If people keep watching the show, I may just get them all just so we can look at them. But the Flash is having their 80th anniversary. Joker's having their 80th anniversary. Yeah, Austin says he'll pick up the last two. Yeah, I think so. You're talking about Adam Hughes and Jim Lee, and I think if you see the normal one, the Joel Jones cover, I think you'll like that one. Get them all? Yeah, you should get them all. I mean, I did. Yeah, we were kind of talking about this throughout the week when I put out a picture of like a teaser of the show for this week, and there was a big stack. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, so there's a Flash is coming up, Flash 80 is coming up, or Flash 80 years, Joker 80 years, Robin 80 years is coming up. So they'll probably do something similar. I hope they're not $10 books, but knowing DC Comics, they probably will be. So it's kind of like they heard that I wasn't buying as many singles, and they're like, well, we got to make up somehow, and they're doing it by just having these variants. So that's it. Like I said, the only book I didn't actually physically pick up yet from my shop is Folklords, but I'll probably pick that up tonight, hopefully. Yeah, they're doing Joker 80 years. I don't know if they're gonna do as many covers as this or not. Um, so we'll see. I mean, yeah, they love doing those decade covers, like they did with Action Comics and Detective Comics. Yeah, it was Batman. Yeah, it was Action Comics and Detective Comics, not Batman and Superman. Yeah, no, you may want to start looking into. You can always look at the previews books to kind of look at all the covers that they're gonna put out. So yeah, don't tell me, but tell me. Yeah, right. Like I never want to look too much into the future, but then by the time I'm working on my pull list, and once again, I use League of Comic Book Geeks to keep track of all that stuff. Like whenever I post a picture of my pull list, it comes from there. It's a cool way to kind of look at everything that's coming out in the week. So I'll review it on Monday, and then if there's anything I need, I'll let my shop know on Tuesday. If there's anything I really want, like I've already pre-ordered a few things. If there's anything I really want, um, and then like I mentioned earlier, I go to 3 different shops. I go to Titan for a lot of my independent stuff, and then Sanctuary for my Marvel and DC stuff, and then also just keeping stuff from Boomerang. So, but that's it. That's all the books I have. Thanks Austin for joining in the chat and everybody else that hopped on earlier. I'll put this out on YouTube once again. We are recording tomorrow for our next issue podcast. So if you have any things you want to talk about or anything you want us to talk about, send us a tweet or a message on Facebook. The Twitter is at Next Issue Pod. You can find me at Echo Spider on Twitter as well. And then Facebook.com/Next Issue Podcast. I think that's it. If you just look up Next Issue Podcast, give us a like. Listen to the podcast. The last episode we had was a discussion on Watchmen um, that we recorded, or the team recorded. I wasn't even at that one. It was recorded before the airing of the 9th episode of Watchmen. So the first 2/3 of the episode are like the guys kind of recapping and talking about everything that's happened. But then the interesting part comes at the last third of the episode, where they kind of speculate on what's going to happen that night. And then now that we know, it's kind of like going back. Some of the upcoming stuff that we're going to work on. is we got to talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths from the CW shows. So we're planning that episode out. We're gonna rewatch the episodes, kind of go through, look at some videos from some creators that kind of have already looked at all the Easter eggs and stuff. Talk about those kind of things, and we'll give them a shout out during the recording. One of them for sure is gonna be New Rockstars. If you don't follow them on YouTube, uh, go ahead and do so because they do a lot of breakdowns about Easter eggs and stuff and nerdy stuff. They did a Witcher thing. They did a Crisis thing. So they're a very cool channel. But yeah, we'll do that. I think tomorrow. What are we talking about tomorrow? Oh, we're looking to do a kind of like a series throughout the year of comics in the 90s. So we'll go back and kind of look at like different publishers, different books, the birth of like really cool things like Vertigo Comics, which unfortunately ended in the past few months. Um, so just stuff like that. But if there's anything else you guys want us to talk about, hit us up at Next Issue Pod. Show us your pull list. Let me know what you guys are picking up because there may be some stuff that I'm not aware of, and I'm always open to like just kind of reading other stuff, even if it's just like trying out the first issue. You guys have seen how many number ones I pick up just for no reason. So thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you guys later. And then go listen to our podcast, rate and subscribe on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share the video. Um, we've been getting pretty consistent views, so I appreciate you guys. And then if you're watching live, like Austin and the people from earlier, just subscribe and it'll give you a notification whenever I go live. So we're gonna try to do more live things. Like Clay has a thing that he wants to do in the next few weeks where he just kind of goes live. So it may not be like all of us together, but we'll each have our own individual segments. So thanks for joining me. I gotta go, but you guys have a good rest of the day and go read some comics.